We're all familiar with physical pain, and I talked in the last episode about ways of working with that. But what about emotional pain? How do you help your students to understand how to work with that and use mindfulness to work with that? This is the Teach Mindfulness podcast. My name is Shama Shaladina, and we're talking about emotions and how to work with emotional pain using mindfulness. Well, first of all, emotions can vary all the way from mild boredom or a slight low mood or something like that, all the way to the other end of the scale where you experience things like extreme anxiety or depression or all sorts of other different feelings. So, how do you use mindfulness to work with that? Well, the first thing to share with your students, and I think this is a great model and way and approach, is to teach the difference between pain and suffering. And a nice formula to share is pain times resistance equals suffering. So, whatever our pain is, whether it's physical or emotional, the more we resist it, the more it tends to persist and creates suffering. And it's the suffering bit that's optional, and the pain is just going to be something that we need to learn to make space for. What we tend to do, and what our tendency is, and that's what we want to teach in our classes, is that we compound the pain. We have that initial pain, we resist it, we fight it, we run away from it, we try to avoid it. We use all sorts of different strategies, from surfing on social media to drinking to unhelpful relationships, all that to avoid pain, often emotional pain, and that compounds it rather than reducing it quite often. And then you start to get layers of it, like you have anxiety, and then you have anxiety about anxiety, you have sadness, and then you feel sad about feeling sad, you feel angry, and then you add in the extra layer of getting angry about being angry. You feel frustrated, and you guessed it, you start getting frustrated about that as well. So, first of all, no one's perfect, and you're not going to be able to completely strip away the suffering and just feel that core pain of the emotion, and nor are your students. So, remind them about that first, and plenty of self compassion is required with all this. As you start to teach meditation and mindfulness, the layers that we add onto the sadness or the anxiety or the shame, whatever that feeling is, the extra layers that we add onto it through our resistance, we start to unpeel them, we start to notice them. But one of the key things that you want to teach in when it comes to dealing with emotional pain is to actually find the sensation in the body. And most people are quite mindless and they don't notice that it actually has a physical component to it. So whatever the feeling, ask the students, where do you feel it in the body? It's one of my favorite questions. Where do you feel it in the body? What is its shape? What is its texture? What is its size? And again, how does it vary or fluctuate or change over time or with the breath? It varies from moment to moment, and you can start cultivating the curiosity, just like you do for physical pain, for the emotional challenge and the pain. So go to the body and allow them to feel it there. Now, some or many students will find that overwhelming because it's unpleasant by definition. And so, one thing that will help them to be able to be with it is to go to the edge of it, the sides of it, giving them the flexibility and the choice to move their attention to different parts of the body, but also tuning into what we learned earlier about the observing self, the transcendent self. If they can drop into that observing self perspective, it gives a little bit of space, it breathes a bit of freedom into that painful experience. And so it doesn't become something that's overwhelming for them, actually becomes something quite attractive. And there's a reason why so many people like to follow spiritual teachers or spiritual traditions when they talk about being the observing self or the transcendent self. It gives a sense of relief and release so that you are not identifying with the emotion. So you're not going down the route of I am depressed or I am anxious or I am ashamed, but there is the feeling there, but I'm part of something bigger. So there's some ideas. Let me know if any of these work for you or for your students or any other questions related to that. That's what I wanted to share about working with emotional pain. You've listened to the Teach Mindfulness podcast. My name's Shamash Aldina. Feel free to email me or message me or check out our website if you want to learn to teach mindfulness, teachmindfulnessonline.com. All right. Thanks a lot for listening. See you in the next one.